Hello, it's Lilias Ahmeira, and wanting to welcome you back. I haven't done a live for a little while, and I thought it was about time that I got back in the saddle again. Recently, I did a blog on sleep, telling everybody why it was so incredibly important that we should have a good night's sleep. And I had one or two emails going, that's fantastic, we understand sleep's really important, but how do we get to sleep if we have difficulty in sleeping? So I thought I'd go through a few tips and tricks about how we can do that. So first of all, just to recap on the blog that we did, most people should have between 8 and 9 hours sleep a night. And you're going to go, gosh, that's a huge amount. We are the most sleep deprived creatures on the planet. If you think about all of the other mammals, they all have a good night's sleep and they go to bed early. As the sun goes down, they get up when the sun comes up. Because of lights and all of the wonderful things that we have to entertain us, we've tended not to do that, and it has catastrophic results on our systems, which many of you experience. So let's have a look at some of the things we can do to enable us to have a good night's sleep. So first of all, what time should be the time that you have your last meal? And it really is best to eat at least 3 hours before you go to bed. And the reason for this is when you lie down, if you've got a full stomach of food, you are far more likely to have acid reflux and endure a whole load of digestive issues and gurgles and unpleasantness throughout the night. So 3 hours before bed is the best time to have finished your last meal of the day. Secondly, when you eat late at night, particularly when you have carbs, what most people don't realise is that it can raise your body temperature. And your body needs to drop its core temperature by at least 2 to 3 degrees in order to induce you into a much better state of sleep. It helps you to fall asleep. And this is why sleeping in a cool bedroom will help to initiate that process. So if you must eat late, and for some people it's completely unavoidable, try to avoid the carbs, as they will very quickly get translated into energy and therefore increase your heat index, which is not supportive of your sleep. How about exercise? Many of you have normal office jobs, and therefore the only time you get a chance to go to the gym is in the evening. And is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Well, it can be a bad idea to exercise before bed, but it really depends on the type of exercise you're doing. The things you need to bear in mind is that exercise will elevate your core temperature, and it will remain elevated for a period of time, which doesn't help you when you want to fall asleep. The other thing that exercise will induce is for your hormones to be changed, and you're going to express far more of the exciting hormones in your body, like epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol. These are not good to go to sleep with. So probably if you can allow at least a 2-hour gap between the ending of your exercise and you finally falling into bed, that's probably the best way to support your sleep. Now, what most people don't realise is actually sleep supports your exercise. If you have a really good night's sleep, your exercise performance will be enhanced and improved tremendously for that. And there are many reasons for that. If you've had a really bad night's sleep or you've had very little sleep, you are not emotionally in the right place for exercising, and you certainly generally are not motivated to really push yourself to sensible limits. Your peak muscle strength will increase if you've had a good night's sleep, and your ability to respire and expel carbon dioxide is also improved the more sleep that you get. Your risk of having injuries will be reduced from a good night's sleep, and your ability to sweat and perspire actually is determined by the amount of sleep that you've had the night before. So that shows you that actually it's the other way around, that a really good night's sleep will enhance your physical performance, and it will also help you to have a longer period of time before you reach your physical exhaustion. So this is a good thing too. What about appetite? I think we've all had the experience of we've had a very late night, and when you're really, really sleep deprived, your brain receives signals which are not dissimilar to starvation. So you come down in the morning and you will reach for any food you can get your hands on. So what happens is a bad night's sleep will release a cascade of hormones which will change your appetite, and it will change your desire to eat more, and you're far less likely to be satisfied after the food that you've eaten. So it's kind of like a fake starvation signal, which increases a hormone called ghrelin, which makes you want to eat more. But the worst thing is that having this ghrelin in your system in any large quantities also suppresses leptin, which is your signal to the brain to tell you you're full. So you can see it's a really vicious circle. You've had a really bad night's sleep, you'll come down, you'll reach for anything left over that was probably, pizza from the night before, chocolate, anything you can get your hands on, because you have absolutely no motivation to make the right choices, and you have a whole load of hormones in your body that are telling you to do things that perhaps are not helpful for your figure. So, a good night's sleep, if you think about it, you're far more motivated to make the right choices about food and the right choices about what you do in life generally. None of us are good on a poor night's sleep. So let's have a look at lighting before we go to bed. Lighting is incredibly important because it really tells the body that we're ready to go to sleep, or that it's bright and shiny outside and we need to be getting up and enjoying the day. So we need to be calming down before we go to bed. So if you can start switching off some of the lights in your house around about 90 minutes before you go to bed, so you have a darker environment. This is basically telling the body it's time to wind down and it's time to start creating perhaps some of that melatonin, which is what we need to sleep. We need to avoid blue lights, the LED lights in particular. Those things also, computers, iPads, phones, those things are telling the brain it's midday, we're ready to get going and get on with the day. It's not helpful when you're trying to wind down and go to bed. So if you can have a curfew for all electronic stuff before you go to bed, that is absolutely brilliant. A lot of people use blue light blocking glasses in the evening, and the rule of thumb is if it's getting darker outside or it's in the autumn and the clocks are changed, you come in the house, if you're turning the lights on, you need to be putting your blue light blocking glasses on so that blue light is being blocked from your eyes, and therefore your body can actually start to wind down. And why do we need to do this? Because blue lights prevent melatonin from being released, and we want it to be released very much in the evening. Some folks take this to another degree. They biohack their evenings a little bit further. I'm one of them. I have a red light hanging in my hallway outside the bedroom so that if one has to get up in the night and have a pee, you're not shocked by the blue light. It's a much red, deeper light. You're less likely to interrupt that sleepy state of your mind, and you can snuggle on back to bed afterwards and hopefully go back to sleep no problem. So 1 or 2 people in those areas where you do have to get up in the night and walk, red lights can be very, very helpful. We mentioned temperature a little earlier. Most people have their bedrooms far too warm, and we all love our central heating and to be all nice and toasty, but it doesn't support your sleeping. As we said earlier, your core temperature needs to drop by at least a couple of degrees. The helpful way to support that is that your bedrooms should be 65 to 68 Fahrenheit or about 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. And this just helps get your body into the right frame of mind that you should be going to sleep. Now, if you're in bed and you're cold and you want to warm up, you can hack this too. So if you go to bed with a hot water bottle, place it at your feet. So your feet will be nice and toasty. The bed will generally start to get a little bit of warmth, but because you've got more blood circulation going to your feet, you'll find that your core temperature will then slightly drop, although your extremities will be feeling warmer. You can do this with bed socks too. But if we can keep the blood in the extremities and not in the core, then your transition into sleep will be a lot easier. Another hack you can have is having a hot shower or a sauna before bed. This is tricking the body by bringing the blood flow to the periphery of the core, to the skin and to the outside. You feel nice and toasty and you've had that lovely warm and relaxing shower or sauna. And again, you may find that you sleep far more deeply after that. And that is a trick used by many. We need to wind down before we go to bed. Relaxation is incredibly important, but it's not always easy to wind down. So some people prefer to do some gentle, relaxing movements. We don't want to do anything too strenuous. Some very light yoga or stretching can be helpful. Some people are really good at meditating. Some people just say there's no way I can meditate at all. So for those of you who have lots and lots of thoughts in your mind, get them down on paper. So spend, half an hour before you go to bed writing a journal. And all of those things that have perturbed you or challenged you or stressed you throughout the day, get them on paper, and then you're far less likely to take them to bed. And ironically, there is research to show that it can decrease the time for you to fall asleep by up to 50% for those people who learn to journal before they go to bed. Now, the big one, alcohol. It is probably one of the most misunderstood sleep aids out there. If you must drink before you go to bed, please make sure your last drink is at least 3 hours away from your bedtime. This is really, really important. Our bodies are creatures of habit. They love rhythm, they love consistency. And when you force it out of its general rhythm, it becomes extremely disrupted. It doesn't like it, and it generally reflects that in your sleep. Alcohol is absolutely devastating for your sleep. Please hear me on that one. It does not help you at all. It will continuously have you waking up throughout the night. Your sleep becomes incredibly fragmented. And the worst part of it is because you've got alcohol in your system, most people don't necessarily realise they're waking up, falling asleep, because the alcohol has dulled their senses. The other thing about alcohol is that it inhibits vasopressin, which makes it a very, very potent diuretic. And this means you're likely to be getting up in the night far more often to have a pee than you would more likely do had you not got any alcohol in your system. Alcohol also can very negatively affect your heart rate variability, which is not a good thing when you want to sleep. It will affect your respiration. It will affect your temperature. So all in all, alcohol is absolutely devastating for the body before bed, so it is best avoided. So I'm going to talk about one or two more things. Sleeping with a partner who doesn't sleep well. This is very challenging for some people and can be the cause of a lot of arguments, and sadly it can be the cause of divorces. But there are things that we can do to help, and it's probably not what you think, because it can be upsetting. But the suggestion I'm going to have when you think about it can really, really enhance your relationship, and that is sleeping in a separate bed. Just think about it. You're going to have improved quality of sleep, you're going to be in a far better mood, and better moods lead to vastly improved personal relationships. You have more tolerance, you have more patience, you've got more energy for each other. Everything's better when you've got a better night's sleep. So just think about it. Something you may not be aware of, your sex hormones are highly dependent on the amount of sleep you've had. So to put it in perspective, those chaps out there who are sleeping only 5 to 6 hours a night will have a level of testosterone that is equivalent of a man probably 10 years their senior. Not good for them or for their partner. So on the flip side of the coin, for us girls, every extra hour that a woman gets in bed will generally increase her desire to be intimate with her partner by up to 13 to 15%. So the benefits are huge on both sides. So, you can set up a system if you are fortunate to have a spare bedroom where you both meet in bed before you go to bed and have a snuggle and a cuddle and whatever, and then you can go your separate ways, and then in the morning the one that was in one room can be joined by the other in the other room in the morning, and you can both greet the day in a very positive manner. It's a really positive suggestion, and life for both parties improves dramatically, and generally so do your relationships. So oral sleep aids, let's move on to those. There are a few out there. I'm not going to go through many. The one that most people are familiar with is melatonin. Melatonin is generally best taken about 45 minutes before you go to bed. Many people think that the more they have, the better it is, but this may not be the case. One of the things people need to be aware of, that if you take too much melatonin, you run the risk of shutting down your ability to produce melatonin, which is not helpful. So a suggestion here, a recommended dose is about 0.5 milligrams, and the most you should be taking is about 3 milligrams. If you are in the UK, you will need to get a prescription from your doctor. If you are in the States, you can buy it generally from any drugstore or supermarket. A couple of others we can talk about: THC and CBD, a hot topic, controversial for some. THC certainly can speed up the time it takes you to fall asleep, which for some people is really, really helpful. However, it can also block your REM sleep, which is not good at all. The other thing about THC is that you may build up a dependency upon it, so when you stop taking it, you immediately rebound into insomnia, which is certainly not helpful. And so it's certainly not recommended for sleep in my book. However, CBD is a different ballgame. CBD does appear to be a lot more helpful for people. At certain doses, it can reduce your core temperature, which is a good thing because we've said before, a lower core temperature induces you into a sleep state more quickly. It can reduce your fight or flight state of your autonomic nervous system, and so it's going to be bringing down anxiety and nervousness. So that again will help you get to sleep. And the most important thing for me is that it doesn't blunt your REM sleep, nor do you build a dependency on it. So if you do choose to come off it, you are less likely to rebound into insomnia again. So that's a really good thing. The last point I need to say is please be aware of the source of your CBD, make sure it is legal, and make sure you are getting it from a very good source. Coffee. We are a nation of coffee lovers, and most people are aware how much coffee they can take before bed, but many people will not realise that in an ideal world you should stop drinking coffee at least 14 hours before you intend to go to sleep. Let me put this into perspective and tell you why. After 6 hours having had your wonderful cup of coffee, 50% of the caffeine is still probably residing in your brain. After 12 hours, 25% of the coffee is still in your brain. So you can see it's really not helpful for sleep when you understand how much is likely to be in your head. So a cup of coffee at noon has at least a 25% residue in your brain at around midnight. So something to get into perspective. So maybe a cup of coffee if you must when you get up in the morning. That should be perhaps your first and your last if you have difficulty in sleeping. So what should you be doing if you've had a terrible night's sleep? We've all had them, and there are many different ideas on what you should be doing. But talking to some of the sleep experts, one of the things they all have in common, and they all say, the first thing of all, you need to get up at the normal time that you would get up in the morning, regardless of how little sleep you've had. And the reason why is because if you don't, and you have a longer sleep in, or you try and take naps throughout the day, you lose your very precious store of adenosine. And adenosine is your natural sleepiness chemical store, which builds up throughout the day. It's a bit like a pressure cooker. The longer you're awake, the more adenosine builds up. So when you do release that lid on the pressure cooker, your whole system goes, oh, great, I can now fall asleep. So if you have been stealing from it throughout the day by sleeping in the morning or having naps throughout the day, then it makes it much, much harder for you to fall asleep. So those are a handful of the tips and tricks that I hope you have found helpful for trying to get to sleep if you have difficulty in this area. Please do visit my website, liliasahmeira.com. Please have a look at our social media. We are all over Instagram and Facebook. And drop me a line. Please hit the like button. If there's something you would like me to talk about, then I will be very happy to have a look at that. And if I can do that for you, I will do so. So, very nice to talk to you again. Have a wonderful evening or day, whenever you're listening to this. And I'll check in again with you soon. Thank you very much.